folks, and welcome to the Snowy's Camping Show with Ben and Lauren. Hey, Ben.
Good morning. Yes, we're still morning.
Still morning. Good, thank you. So don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to your podcast, whether that be on YouTube or your favourite podcast app, and jump into our Facebook group, the Snowy's Camping Banter, where we chat all things camping and gear related. And you can also give your feedback to episodes or ask questions or do sort of those sorts of things in there as well, and lean on the community for a bit of information. And today's episode is going to be a longer one, but it is based around a camper's question, isn't it? And this was in the Facebook group. It's quite a long, big question. And Ben looked at that and he was like, you know what? I reckon we could make an episode out of this. And I agree. It is a really good one to sort of look at in a bit more detail. Also probably really great to note that the community's already jumped in with a whole bunch of comments and feedback on this channel, which is always good to see. But I think it applies to a lot of people who either haven't been camping before and really want to get into it, or have camped in the past, and maybe circumstances are different or life has changed, and man, life can change a lot, right? And so now you're in a different place, in a different point of your life, and you want to try and get back into it, and you're just a little bit like, because I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, the options for what you slept on and what you slept in and what you sat on were really limited. Yeah. Whereas now it's like a candy store.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to navigate, I think, sometimes, especially if you're really new.
I think so. So this was a Facebook group question, and this person was anonymous, and so we won't say anything about names or anything like that, and we'll ad-lib some of what she's sort of said here. But what touched on me was that we're as Snowy's, as a store, we try to break down that some of the barriers around having to have all the gear.
Yeah,
like there's camping's for everyone, and you don't need all the gear.
Correct.
And I think it had me thinking that, I guess after reading what she asked, that it could be intimidating for some people, particularly in this instance, a single female. Mm-hmm. Just getting into camping, you're going to pack your car, go out, set up camp by yourself, probably concerned about looking like you're knowing what you're doing, worried that you actually do know what you're doing, worried about or being intimidated by the people out there with all the gear, potentially all the gear and no idea. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Worried about animals.
Know a few of those, by the way.
Insects, worried about safety, all of those things. That it's a lot to think about. As if you're doing it with a partner, you've got someone else to bounce ideas off of you. If you're going out by yourself, I can totally understand that it would be intimidating. In many ways, that it made me think that the times I've been out camping or hiking by myself, I get excited by some of that.
Yeah.
Like when I'm out there and
Me too.
the senses are heightened and you do feel a little bit anxious because you're like, what was that noise? And then you got this thing in your head like, it's probably just a fox,
an adrenaline,
or a rabbit or something. I don't need to be worried. And then you calm down but I quite like that, and the benefits of going through that after the feeling afterwards and waking up by yourself with the sun coming on your face and those sort of things is amazing. So made me think, well, I'd like to talk about it because I want other people to experience that as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll jump into what she said. I won't read it word for word. But basically she says she'd like to get back into camping, and she's looking for suggestions. Single lady who used to camp as a young adult, primarily just in a swag, but her circumstances have changed. She had some trauma in her life, which means some things might be triggering for her. Yep. So she talks about doesn't want to feel trapped and wants space to move around and those sort of things.
And things like that. Really important.
Not something I've experienced, so I can't talk firsthand about it. But obviously there's just some things in her life. She goes, for me to enjoy this, I need to work in these parameters.
Yep.
She did pick up recently a secondhand tent that she can stand up in, which helps with the above issues and a bad back as well. But pack up and set down can be frustrated.
Yep.
She's out there by herself.
Totally.
Pegs in the ground. If you're in pain, can't move around so much. Totally understand that. She also talks about her physical makeup, maybe not necessarily being in line with what you see in all the marketing and stuff. It just doesn't fit what you might class as a normal camper, but that shouldn't it's a bit like image bias with
Image
clothing and
bias
stuff
with
too, right?
everything, clothing, whatever.
Camping's
Yeah.
open to everyone. Then she lives in an area where summer nights can be 30 degrees or below 0 degrees. So I think she's
Huge
throughout the
variance in
middle of
temperature
Australia.
there. Yeah.
Insects, bugs, etc. a problem. And she says 2 to 3 nights at a time, easy setup and pack down for a single person who's not necessarily really fit, but doesn't have a huge budget. So I think, and we'll go through the specific things she's asked for here. So that kind of sets the scene for, I think, probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think, I'd like to get into camping one day. You're not set up. You haven't done it before.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily, able to hike a long distance, but you just want to drive somewhere, camp, and enjoy the sunrise.
Yep.
So there's a lot of extra questions attached to this. I was going to answer this in the group, and which got me thinking this is a whole conversation. And I imagine them calling your team in customer service and probably taking up a good amount of time on the phone to answer all of this. So
totally.
I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of all of this in one single episode. I think we've got a bunch of suggestions here and ideas that are probably further conversation starters. And I invite this lady and anyone who's got questions around any of this to get in touch, whether that's through our group or give us a call or an email or whatever. We'd love to help. So to get you on the way, she'd love to hear suggestions on the following gear you can recommend. Now, my first thought is, well, what vehicle do you have? Are you camping out of a sedan? That then lead me to think, if you are camping out of a small car, there's heaps of people in the Facebook group that already do that. And I hope we can all jump on board with this episode and offer suggestions, because you'll get suggestions, endless suggestions on gear to get that fit in a small car. But you need to make some considerations on that, because if you've got a small car, then we need to look at compact gear.
More compact gear.
Which you trade off maybe a little bit of comfort and convenience for compact. If you've got a big car, a van or something, then the options are somewhat endless. So I'm hoping that when we post this in the Facebook group, it's going to trigger a bunch of suggestions for people.
Yep.
So the first thing she started on was a sleeping bag and mattress, a sleep system.
Yeah.
And my instant thought was the best option for a sleeping mat was a recent addition to the range, and that's Zempire's Monster Bed. Super comfortable, high, insulated, like your bed at home almost.
Yeah.
Only barrier is the budget, because it's not cheap.
And interestingly enough, I thought exactly the same thing. The reason why I thought this was because, elements of limited physicality means that a stretcher mat combo would be a really great suggestion, right? Because then you're not having to clamber down to the ground and get up, and then maybe if you like a firmer mattress, you're not having to sit on the ground and pump up your mattress and put a bit of extra air into whatever. So immediately raising your bed, putting it on a stretcher increases accessibility for everybody that has physicality limits, right? So then but then you've got the element of setting up a stretcher. A stretcher often can be quite heavy. It can be quite bulky. There's not really a huge amount of flexibility that you have within that space if you want to be lifted up. Mat options, you've got a great range of mat options. So I was like, something like Oztrail Fat Mat, for example, that's a really good sort of entry-level price point mat. It's 15 centimeters thick. So if you are sort of a larger person or a bigger person, or you do have back issues or sort of comfort's going to be something that's really important to you, 15 centimeter mat is worth a look at. So that Oztrail Fat Mat fits that sort of, I guess, budget and requirement there really well.
I wouldn't go under 10 centimeters. Look, 10 centimeters and up.
For sure. And I think so then it's like mat, stretcher and mat combination. But then that's two pieces of gear. They can be a bit bulky. They can be heavy, not sure what vehicle you've got, etc. So then the second thought was the Monster Bed. It's very, very compact, does exactly the same thing, raises you up off the ground. Super soft, comfortable mattress, even better than the one you've got at home in most cases. Very small.
I think price-wise,
big barrier.
By the time you buy a stretcher and a mat, you're probably almost at the price of, I haven't had a look. But it might be closer.
I'm gonna challenge that, but let me have a look.
While I talk about my next point, the only consideration between a stretcher, if you've got a stretcher and you're getting a small tent, because I think you probably want to get a tent that's small enough for you to walk around in, but be comfortable to stand up in, but you don't have a lot of space necessarily in your car. A stretcher allows you storage space under the bed. So you've got a bit more room in the tent, whereas the monster bed is an inflatable bed. You can't store anything under it. But my recommendation here would be probably for your setup is to get a sleep system that gives you a good night's sleep, because if you can't sleep comfortably at night, you're not going to go camping again.
Correct.
You
need to rest well.
Some comfortable place to sleep, comfortable place to sit is going to be probably make or break your camping trip. So I would not skimp on your sleep setup. Make sure you can sleep warm.
Yes. So just having a look. So you're right. If you were to go with something like the 15 centimeter fat mat and a stretcher, you're probably looking at the same price as a single monster bed. I'm comparing singles here, right? Okay. So, I would probably say the monster bed would probably be the suggestion there. Yeah. I mean, then you also have to add the pump in too, but.
Well, I might play into tents a little bit shortly with a pump, but
okay.
I would say monster bed. They've revolutionized that whole space. They are really comfortable.
Yeah.
That's going to be expensive, but you don't have to spend the earth on a sleeping bag. I think you can probably get away for around about $100. I don't know what you call expensive, but around about $100 to $100 to $150, you could get a reasonably good sleeping bag. I refer to the Coleman range in particular, Pilbara or Mudgee range. You can get a 0 to -7 degree bag, I think, for under $150 from that range there. Mm-hmm. That way you're spending a bit more on that sleeping mat. You're getting an insulated pad underneath you. It's going to help you stay warm, and you're getting a nice comfortable sleeping bag. Now you can spend more on a sleeping bag, but you can probably trim back a little bit there if you like. If you are going down the lightweight path, you've got a small vehicle, this mat and this sleeping bag are going to take up a lot of space in your vehicle. They're bulky.
Yeah.
You can get more compact by going something like the Cedar Summit Base Camp, which is a downfield bag, significantly more expensive, significantly more compact.
Yeah.
So have a think about where you want to spend the money there. But I think a sleep system, I'd probably get a better sleep system over some of the next things that we talk about, which is a sturdy table. I'd put up with a wobbly table and a good sleep system.
I know that there obviously, in the case of this particular camper, not feeling trapped is important. She's talked about claustrophobia and things like that before. And I know that there's been lots of comments in the Facebook group already around, hey, look at getting a quilt. Really great suggestion. I think that and I know I've talked about this a lot, in a lot of circumstances in the past, I've just taken my quilt from home, not even bothered with a sleeping bag. Because, for obviously, not obviously, but for different reasons, I don't like feeling trapped or claustrophobic. Okay. And so a quilt is a really great option for me. But you've also got a variance here of sort of 30 degrees to below zero. Whether or not a quilt is going to keep you warm below zero or not, or whether or not you want to go with some sleeping bags have really comprehensive zip systems. Mm-hmm. So the base camp you mentioned is obviously one of those, but something like your Darche Coal Mountains, I don't think the River Gum has them, but the 23-0 and Darche sleeping bags, they have a zip both down either side and then a third zip across the foot. So you do have the option there of potentially either unzipping the whole top of the sleeping bag and just having a single lighter weight quilt that you pack with you for warmer months. You have the option of a whole complete enclosed sleeping bag. Now, those sleeping bags also come in different varying widths. So you've got the 900, the 1100 and the 1400 wide, which is more akin to a double. So if you don't like feeling constricted, you could go with an 1100 sleeping bag, especially if you're a bit of a larger person. It'll give you a lot more room to move about within the bag as well. But you can also fully unzip the foot end. And if you wanted to, you could possibly unzip the whole bottom half of that bag. Yep. So you're still a bit enclosed, but with a lot of room around your arms and your upper body, if that's what you want to sort of keep your torso warm a bit more, but have full range of motion to kick around with your legs at the bottom.
Yeah.
Or you could do that in reverse and have the top half open and have a bit more of your feet and your legs zipped up. Like there's lots of You don't have to go with a super high-tech bag like Basecamp to have zip functionality and variations there. And you don't have to just lock into a quilt.
Coleman and Austrail both have options with removable liners as well. So that will cover you for your warmer nights and your colder nights.
Mm-hmm.
You can zip them open as a doona too. The thing that keeps coming back to my mind here is the pack size if you've got a small vehicle.
Yeah.
My recommendation here would probably be the monster bed, like we said, combined with a sleeping bag from the range 230 Darchi, Coleman, Austral's River Gum, different pricing in there from starting from
Oz Tents River Gum.
Yeah. Starting from around the 100 mark through to I think over 200.
Yeah.
Probably ideally need to go and lie in some. And I think this lady was from a remote location, so that might be hard. So if you've got something to reference it to, maybe if you've got a sleeping bag, crawl in. If that feels tight, measure the width of the bag and then just work out. We've got all the measurements on our website.
Yeah.
Work out the width that you might need and go a little bit wider for that wriggle space. We'll move on. Food storage, including esky for prep and cooking. Now, once again, if budget's an issue, this is going to be probably hard, but a fridge will make life easy. But you're going to spend a fair bit on a fridge. Failing that, I'd get a good ice box. And I think the best value ones are the Evercool Ice Cool. I did note some sizes here actually. If it's just an individual traveling, then probably a fridge. If you did get a fridge around that 30, maybe 40 is probably a little bit big, but you don't need a massive fridge. Don't get a 90-litre fridge unless you're planning on taking ice cream and heaps of food.
We have also done a specific episode, which we'll link to in the show notes, about only using an esky and the way that you pack your food and like freeze stuff and where you put that in the bottom and whatever. So if you're on a budget and esky camping is the way to go, check that episode out.
And I think in this instance, what this lady's asking, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Because if you get a good ice box, you're going to use that ice box for future camping trips.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use it for parties at home to keep things cool. Just get a decent ice box. And when I say decent ice box, the Evercool Ice Cool range are not super expensive, but they perform really well for what they do. They're not quite as polished as some of the other ones, but they do the job. So probably around about 46 litres is a good size. You can also get away with the cold stuff by maybe trying to take non-foods doesn't require refrigeration, so don't take too much or we'll share the episode that we talked about.
It might be worth mentioning as well that you've mentioned a 30-litre fridge or a 46-litre esky.
They're my notes.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. So you've mentioned 30-litre fridge but a 46-litre esky. The reason for that discrepancy is because you need to account for how much room your ice will take up.
That's right, yeah. And quite often with an esky, I'll put stuff in the esky that I don't put in the fridge just to fill it up. So because you've got to put the other food somewhere anyway. So if you've got your fridge, you're still going to have a tub for the other food. Whereas if you've got a bigger esky, you can put more of that food in the esky too.
Yeah.
And cool that food down before you go.
Yeah.
So you could take, I've said suggestion to freeze water in like 2-litre milk, clean milk containers.
Yep.
That keeps it cool, but then becomes drinking water on the way.
Yep.
If you're taking, I don't know, I use maybe soy milk as an example, a litre of soy milk. Chill all that beforehand. You don't have to store it in the fridge, but chill it beforehand. Put that in your ice box because it's going to help keep the whole thing cool. So do all those things. So if you've got a slightly bigger ice box, you can put extra bits in there plus the ice that we talk about.
And if you're talking about living in a place where summer nights can be 30 degrees or more, the daytime is going to be like stinking bloody hot, like the surface of the sun basically. And so doing exactly what you've mentioned there, freezing 2-litre ice bottles means that you will have ice cold water.
Yep.
This is win-win.
And keep your ice box out of the direct sun. If you're in that sort of temperature, day and night, be really careful. If you take frozen meat, try and have that on the first few nights so that by the time you're getting to the end, things are cool, but you're not keeping things in there that need to be below 5 degrees.
Yeah.
Other food storage, just take tubs. We've got some cool tubs here that are like Front Runners Wolfpack tubs and those sort of things. You could spend money on those. They're really good. Or
you just go to Bunnings and just go and get a cheap tub.
There's white tubs that I've got. Trying to think, Icon I think is the name. And they stack inside each other. You can get lids for some. I've got about 10 of them, and that's what I travelled with. And I think they're like $10 each.
The other thing that I think is really cool, and I've sort of got one or two of them recently is, and I'm not sure about durability because they're just for around home, but they're like a collapsible crate. So when you're not using them, they fold flat and pack flat. But and it's probably something to consider, especially in the sort of environment that that our camper who's asked this question is putting food in a tub with a lid. Be mindful of the temperatures that you're in, humidity and condensation building up in that tub and making food go yuck or whatever, whether or not a crate might be better for food storage. And then you've mentioned insects and pests and things like that. So it's just making the best common sense decision that you can make about whether or not a crate is going to be better. Actually, totally. I just had this thought that came to mind, and my headphones cable, if you're hearing these little bits and pieces in the audio.
A videographer's not going to be happy with you.
No, he's not. He's going to be so irritated. I'm missing my footstool. I usually, because I'd mentioned before, I'm very short compared to you, and I usually have a little footstool underneath here to keep me balanced on my stool. I'm missing my footstool.
Slippers on.
And I've got my slippers on because it's bloody cold here today. And my bloody headphone cable as well. It's just all over the place. I'm really fidgety, so apologies. But what we're talking about, I saw something really cool recently, and I cannot remember where I've seen it, but it's I'm sure somebody will tell me, but it's a milk crate, like standard milk crate, but it goes inside a canvas bag. And so the canvas bag zips closed and you can carry it around with a handle like any other sort of canvas drawer bag, but it's designed for a milk crate to sit inside.
Yeah. That's cool.
And I was like, genius, because not necessarily people want to use plastic tubs from what I've just mentioned, humidity and food, off-gassing and whatever. That's perfect. It's solid and breathable and sealed from pests.
So things like bread and your fruit and veg, if you seal that up, it gets a bit, especially if it's hot, it gets yucky quicker and goes off quicker. Yeah. So you need to let that breathe a little bit. But in a canvas bag's perfect. Yeah. You can canvas storage bags as well for those sort of things. You just don't have that protection. So if you've got apples and bananas and that sort of stuff, you kind of need a bit of rigidity to protect them. But I wouldn't spend the earth on food storage, especially when you start out. Go with some basic stuff that you know you can reuse somewhere else or reuse to another trip, and then work things out as you go. If you go, I use this tub all the time and I've got a roof rack and I want to tie it on there, then invest in like Front Runner's Wolf Pack or something like that because it's a solid unit that will sit on the roof for years and years to come.
And I don't know about you, but I've been not guilty because there's nothing to be guilty of, but I've certainly taken a bunch of reusable shopping bags before because they're square and they stack well and you just put food in there and then you can double up as a garbage bag or,
they're great. We've always had them. In fact, I'm pretty sure for most of our trip, there's one that sat sort of just front of the passenger seat, so your legs went over it, and that's where all the food for the kids on the road trip went. But they sit upright so they don't fall over. Better than a plastic bag that just like falls over and all spills everywhere. If you get the insulated ones, they sit upright even better.
So, definitely, and they zip shut. So it's
All right, next one's table and chair, which I think is an important consideration and really hard to answer, I think. Well, the chair one in particular is really hard to answer without, because you need to sit in a chair and find out a discount. Go back to that, what she mentioned about, sort of individual body makeups and different shapes and sizes.
When we talked about sleeping bags before,
What one person finds comfortable in a chair, someone else is going to sit
There's
in and go,
no way that you and I would find the same chair comfortable.
That bar sticks into my hip or like my back feels uncomfortable here or whatever. Yeah. Like you've got a bad back too. The lady who's mentioned, who's comment.
Ask the questions.
You know what I'm trying to say? So it's really hard to say this chair is going to be comfortable. So you probably need to get into the store and give them a try. True. But we'll try and make some suggestions. So I started with table and chair. I recommend you don't go too cheap with a table.
I would say it depends what you're using it for.
Yeah, if I'm assuming there's one table that she's using.
For everything?
To cook on, to eat at, and to food prep on.
Because the other thing probably as well, and we're back to the vehicle without not knowing exactly what vehicle type she's got, right? If she's got a station wagon or a 4-drive or something like that, once you unpack most of your gear, I've just cooked in the back. Like I've, in a dual cab ute was on the back of the tray, or in a station wagon. I've just sort of set a camp kitchen up on in the tail of the car, right? Yep. So then any table that I have would just be one for putting drinks on, or serving stuff, or eating off of, or just sort of having around. So it didn't necessarily have to be load bearing or carrying a stove.
That's a good point.
That's probably, and if you're talking about maybe compact or not, when you have heaps of gear, if you can double up using your car, then that's one less table you have to bring. So it's probably.
That is a good point, because if you're one that says, no, I just have to sit at a table to eat too, then you're probably going to need a bigger table. If you have it eat off your lap, then you could probably get away with just a small side table, just to, like you say, put your drinks on or your phone on. If the ground's dirty or dusty or whatever, you don't want to put stuff on the ground, you can get just a small table and then use the vehicle. So once again, it depends, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What exactly do you want? I'm going to make the assumption that she wants a table to sit down and have a meal at.
Maybe also cook on. Yeah.
She's got a bad back, so nothing too low.
Want it to be a little bit higher.
Working in the car can be a little bit lower, I suppose. So I'm assuming she wants an all-round table. So I made a few suggestions. There's Wonderlight has got a Nomad table, which is it's not very high though. It's a small table, but it's affordable and compact. Wild Track's got another one. It's probably quite wobbly, 70 centimeter slat table, really lightweight and compact. I'd only go those if you're really trying to fit small, you're really limited for vehicle space. If you're willing to spend a little bit more and you want a sturdy table to do everything at, then Zempire's range is quite good in terms of stability and space. They've got their kit pack or their slat pack. Slat pack's a little bit cheaper. It's aluminium slats. Kit pack's got a nice look, and I know that's important for you to have a nice look here, like a bamboo top.
Very much so.
Failing that, probably the best balance are some of the recent Quest tables.
I was literally going to suggest the Quest camp table.
So there's
they've got the newer 5, which is bigger. Sorry, I'm just going to jump ahead here because I reckon the camp table would be the best one, the Quest camp table.
Which one's that?
So they have the table 4.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then they have the table 5, which is bigger.
Yes.
Table 4 would be more than adequate for one person. But the reason why I think it would be an excellent choice is because it's a table that you can use for everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can raise the height for food prep. You can drop it down to sit at for eating at. It's got storage underneath the table as well, which negates the need for having to have tubs out and things you have to bend over and pick out of whatever. And it's also got some storage on one of the ends, so you can put your utensils, cutlery, things like that in.
Yep.
You can hang a bin bag off it. You can put paper towel there.
Yep.
It's also blown molded plastic, so it's not super heavy, and it folds in half, so it's relatively compact.
And
you can put a stove on it.
It goes quite tall as well, I think.
Yeah, it does. It does go tall. So
I noted the Versalite Barbecue 120, which is another option. Now, these tables, they're not the sturdiest, but they're by no means the wobbliest as well.
Yeah.
They're probably the best balance for what she's looking for at the moment, for a table that doesn't cost the earth, does the job.
Yeah.
And if you decide you want to add to your kit later, that's the sort of table that you're going to use in your campsite or at home when the kids need somewhere to sit while the parents sit elsewhere and while you're having a barbecue or something. The Versalite Barbecue 120 I mentioned because if you want to put hot stuff somewhere, it's got a metal end on it.
Yeah.
That's the only consideration there. Otherwise, the camp tables I think are great because of all the camp storage options.
All the storage options, and also like these tables are very quickly fold them open, lift the legs up, bam.
Yep, they kind of got auto locking features and that sort of thing.
There are some other tables that are really great and compact out there, but they often are a little bit more fiddly in the frame. You have to sort of jiggle and expand stuff. Maybe it's a slat top, like a roll top slat, so you've got to unroll that or piece together the tops. It's just straight open and fold, swing your legs out, you're done.
Yep. The only downside is the pack size of those is going to be a large it's basically the table folded in half. So once again, how much space have you got in your vehicle? Yeah. If there's not much, then
they are flat though.
They're flat, so you can slide it on top. Yeah. If you haven't got that space and you need something kind of longer and thinner than one of the previous mentioned tables, but there's heaps of tables on our site. There could be a different one that suits your needs. Yeah. So hopefully this is just a good place to start thinking about it.
Yep.
So onto chairs. I think this lady probably needs a sturdy chair. So I'll mention the lighter ones. So you got the Helinox and the Wonderlight chairs, which I got Helinox and I really like them because they're compact. I'm comfortable in them.
Yep.
They're so small. Like you can fit 2 or 3 of those in the same size as some equivalent camp chairs, individual camp chairs. But they're not as rigid. I have 4
chairs the same size as my Black Wolf sofa chair, which I love. but
they're
it's massive. I can fit all 4 family chairs with the Wanderlei and Helinox.
Yeah.
For the size of one camp chair.
So if you're in a small car, you probably need to go down that path. Downside being they are rated for heavier, they've got a higher
I think they're
weight
usually
rating,
around 150.
130, 150. But they're wobbly. You sit on it and it moves around a little bit. The frame flexes, which is the nature of the frame. That's fine. If you want to go compact but a little sturdier, Darchie's Revolver chair is pretty good. Or they've got their flat pack one as well, which is slightly bigger, but you don't get.
I would recommend the flat pack, over the Revolver. The Revolver is a really great chair, but it is a chair that I would probably not recommend to someone who is approaching the weight limit or the weight ratings of that.
Okay.
Just because the revolving action, obviously it's got that swivel point underneath it. The entire chair frame goes down to that one singular point. If you're getting in and out of it a lot or you're spinning around, it's just a lot of stress to put on that little joint in the middle.
Okay.
Whereas
the flat pack,
the flat pack one that I did a video on, worth checking out. It's huge. It's comfortable, so versatile.
So there's a little bit of extra, if you're comparing setup time for that over a quad fold camp chair that you just fold out and put on the ground, the flat pack's a little bit of extra time mucking around, but it's not difficult, is it?
No, not by any stretch of the means. Yeah. No, it's an all-in-one. It just sort of opens up. The thing that I like about that, and especially maybe for applications to this question, is that I feel like it's quite a large and supportive chair. It was one of those chairs, I mentioned before how you and I could sit in a chair and would probably find a hard time finding the same one comfortable for both of us, right? But it's one of those chairs that there was quite a few of us in store on the day that I was filming it who was getting in and testing it out. And at first I wasn't really sure if I liked it, but then the more that I worked with it in the video, the more I actually was like, this is probably a really great chair actually. Multiple different body shapes, heights, sizes, all sit in the chair, all think it's pretty good. The reason why I like it is that it seems to incorporate the functions of a few different styles of chairs. So there's a recliner chair that you can buy recliner chairs, right? And you have to set the what do you call it? The angle of your back on it, right?
Yep.
You've also got things like rocker chairs. You've got your compact Helinox chairs. So this one seems to incorporate a few of those things. You can all 4 legs on there are adjustable like an old vacuum cleaner pole of 3 different heights. So if you wanted to, you can adjust the front legs down to the lowest height and the back ones up to the highest height, and it tilts the chair forward. Okay. So if you're sitting to eat at a table or anything like that, it just really changes your position.
Okay.
You can set it back to be more relaxing it's just, I don't know, I like it. It incorporates a range of different features. The only thing that it doesn't have, which might be an issue for this scenario or for anybody else with physicality limitations, is it doesn't have armrests.
Which is a good lead into the next chairs that I suggested, because we've kind of covered off on that, assuming maybe you've got a small car, you need a compact chair. That's your options there. And I think by the sounds of it, I haven't actually sat with Darchie flat pack, but it sounds like that's probably a good option. If you want something that you really lay back in, then there's so many options. You could get really big chairs and put your feet up. Once again, if your vehicle isn't limited for space,
huge chairs,
get a big chair because you're comfortable. If you want others that I'm suggesting that kind of sit in between, Black Wolf's compact director's chair has always been a winner.
Yep.
Packs up relatively compact. It's got more of an upright seating position, not a lay-back seating position.
Yeah.
Little table on the side. So you might think about that in combination with which table you're going to buy, because you've already got a table on your chair, and packs up relatively small, nice and sturdy too. Sturdy arms to get yourself in and out. Front Runner's got a similar one called the Expander chair, quite popular with caravanners, packs up really compact, not quite the same sort of space to sit in it and quite as sturdy, but still a really good chair if you want that compact thing. If we're just going to go big and comfortable, the likes of Australia's King Goanna chair just offers the best of everything.
Huge,
and then you can go to your layback lounges,
soft, quad back,
recliners, all of that. But then they're really, really bulky to pack. Yeah. I threw a few extras in here as a suggestion because there are some that kind of sit in between, like Australia's Deluxe Armchair, their Cooler Armchair, and Coleman's King Cooler Chair. They're sort of around that $50 mark. so they don't cost the earth. They don't have all the padding and features and finish of some like the King Goanna chair, which is all padded and feels really comfortable. But they have a good weight rating. They're large chairs, quad fold chairs that fold up relatively compact. We're talking around about 4 kilos. The King Goanna chair is probably up around 6 kilos, whereas Archie's flat pack, I think, is probably only 3 or something. It's quite small.
Honestly, I don't reckon I could tell you off the top of my head, maybe 4 kilos.
Yeah, okay. If chair doesn't bother you too much and you just want to spend about $50, then just get one of those cooler arm chairs. They won't have all the breathability and the padding and stuff in it, but they'll do the job and they're relatively compact.
But I think it's probably worth thinking about though, because if they are cheaper and they have less padding, they're going to be less comfortable, especially if you're on the heavier side of things. So, but exactly like you've said, a chair and a sleeping mat are probably the 2 things that you don't want to skimp on.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else you can probably make work.
And if you're a single camper too, you can probably, once again, depending on the car, you can probably afford to get a slightly larger chair. So when you go like, I need chairs for 4 people, suddenly 4 Austrail King Goanna chairs becomes a hell of a lot of space in the car. If you're going by yourself, you've probably got room.
Yeah.
So if you can fit that in, then get a comfortable chair.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we've done an episode on choosing a chair as well that goes a bit more in depth into features and things to consider. So probably worth listening to that too.
Yeah. So look, that's I'm glad I didn't try and answer that in a Facebook comment because it would have been a
bit more complex,
comment.
isn't it?
But I think this is like just the start of quite a big conversation for this lady who's setting herself up. Anyone else in the same position, hopefully this kind of gives you a place to start thinking about what works for you. And if you've got any questions, get in touch. Don't try and do it all at once. Maybe work out your sleep system and then work out your kitchen system and then work out your furniture system.
And you got a tent, which is a really great start.
Yeah, but she didn't ask specifically about tent, but she did say there's a bit of mucking around.
Yeah.
I didn't cover off on that. If you did want my suggestion on that, I'd say, and this ties in with this Empire Monster bed, have a look at the air tent side of things and getting a pump.
Yep.
Because you're putting less pegs in the ground, then your pump's doing the work for you to set your tent up. The pump can do the work for you to set your mat up, but the pump's an extra cost as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It's like those air tents are a really awesome option for accessibility and camping, but they can be a bit of the barrier can be expense.
And it depending on which model you get, bulk.
Yes.
You know, the Aero Speed, the compact, the Aero range, the green range is probably a good balance, but they're still bulk E. And once again, it comes down to which vehicle you've got.
Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully that's a great start. Thanks for asking the question. It's helped us with a topic for today's episode.
Yeah.
We were scratching our heads otherwise.
And really exciting to hear that you are wanting to get back into camping because that makes me happy.
It's great to hear people get into it. Just got to break down that. I think it's good to be nervous or anxious about new things. We tell my kids that all the time. If you're not anxious or nervous, then it's probably not very exciting for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to help people get out there and enjoy these things. And I hope there's heaps of people in the group. I know there's heaps of people in the group who are going to jump in and say, do this, do that. So ask more questions in there. Anyone who wants to know, just ask more questions. There's heaps of awesome people there. So,
cool.
But thanks for watching. That was a cool chat.
Cool. We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you next time.
Catch you later.